Hello and welcome to today's session. My name is Nadia and I'm a Customer Training Manager here at EBSCO. Our session today is on updates to usage reporting on the new user interfaces. This session is being recorded and you will receive a copy of this slide deck and a link to the recording after the session as well. Some objectives from our session today. It is my hope that by the end, you'll be able to describe how usage is logged on the new user interfaces, identify updates to usage reporting metrics, and access support materials. Now, the first thing I wanted to point out is this help guide here. So our session today is really focusing on the reporting differences over time and some items that you need to be aware of. And this information is documented on our EBSCO Connect site. So I am just going to jump into my browser very quickly and grab that link for you. I'm going to paste this one into the chat window. So this will just go over essentially some things that you might notice when you're comparing usage between your classic interface and the new interface over time. And there's a few things to note. So this guide is a really good one to have handy so that you've got all the information there. But our session today will be going through these changes in detail. So based on that guide, these are some of the key changes that you need to be aware of. So this table is really just taking the information that's in that guide and just making it a bit more easy to consume, I guess. So the first thing that will be a bit of a change is the way that sessions are handled. Now, in the classic interface, the default was always 30 minutes. So you would click on a link, you would open up your database, and in 30 minutes time with no activity, it would time out and you'd have to log back in to get a new session. So the change that's going to really impact on sessions is that with the new user interface, the session timeout is between 20 to 24 hours. So it's a significant difference between 30 minutes to 24 hours. And 30 minutes was the default. You could change this, and the maximum on Classic was 2 hours if you did change it. So it was either 30 minutes, 1 hour, or max 2 hours. So still significantly less than the 20 to 24 hours for the new UI. So in reporting over time, you're going to see this reflected in lower session counts and reduced product session counts. And what I mean by product session counts is your database sessions. So that's one thing to be aware of. The second thing is HTML full text. So that's your online full text. Now, in the classic version, whenever you would go to a detailed record, so that abstract record and HTML was a full text option, that HTML would be embedded within the detailed record. When they released the new UI, they actually stopped that. And so the HTML wasn't included in that detailed record. However, in the last couple of weeks, they've decided to include that back. So now, and I'll show you this in a live demonstration shortly, HTML is now included in that detailed record. So there might be a period of time where there's less retrieval counts when HTML was not included in the new UI, but moving forward it is. So you would expect to see, higher retrieval counts and HTML full text requests. The other thing that will also impact is the changes to hover functionality. So in the classic version, there would be on the record itself in your result list, a little magnifying glass, and you kind of hover over it and it would open up a little abstract view, and that would actually record an abstract or an investigation encounter. So we don't have this anymore. So in that case, you might notice some lower abstract views in your standard usage reports and some lower investigation counts in counter reports. So just bearing in mind that that might be something that impacts on usage when comparing that to Classic. The other thing I want to mention here is the search count impacts. And this really affects any profile where you have a database that includes a video product. So some examples could include academic search databases. They include an Associated Press video collection. Business Source Complete and Above includes a business and economics video collection. Education Source includes a video collection. So if you have a profile with some of those databases that include these videos, you might notice an increase in search activity because the new UI is built as a kind of bento style search or a segmented style search. So a user searches their keywords and those video collections are automatically searched as well. So that again might just include a bit of an increase there. The other thing that's also been a change is the bulk export. So historically with the bulk export, and this is a setting that is optional, where you can include an option to email up to 25,000 records to import into your bibliographic manager. In the classic version, we never counted these, but in the new UI, these will be counted as retrievals. So you might notice an increase in retrieval counting and volume. And then the last little feature that's been a bit of a change is actually due to counter release 5.1 and the way that ebook chapters are now counted. So historically, we would never count individual chapters in counter. It would always kind of be either an item investigation or item request or a title investigation or unique title request. But now in the new version, if a user was to download 10 chapters, they would be counted now as an item investigation and item request. So that's a bit of a change as well. So moving on from there, we're going to head over into the platform and I'm going to flesh these little key changes out a little bit further for you to give you some context. So the first thing I wanted to cover was how is usage logged on the new interface or on the platform. So in this case, this is sort of your landing page that you can see on my screen here. So I've basically clicked a link and I've opened up my EBSCO host platform and I'm going to search for a topic. So here there's going to be some metrics being logged. The first thing will be your interface session count. So I'm in my EBSCO host interface. It's an interface session. I've actually got all databases enabled here. So I will be logging database sessions against every database that I search across in this case. And if you are looking at reports, you might see something called an search as automated. This is an example of an automated search because I'm not selecting a specific database. All right, so it's just something that you might see in reports as well. Now, one thing I mentioned that will be a change is that this session will now last between 20 to 24 hours, whereas in the classic version, the maximum was 2 hours. So that's where those session counts are going to be decreased a little bit if you're looking historically. The next thing is your result page metrics. So in this case, we've run a search on our topic and then the user will go through and review the results on that result page. So the first thing we're going to see over here is a user might click on that title link that is going to record an abstract investigation, sorry, an abstract view or an investigation encounter. They might also go straight to the full text. If that's the case, it will be a full text retrieval or encounter, it would be a request. And if you do have your AI insights on, if a user clicks on this, it will generate a total feature request and an AI insight request in the standard usage reports and an investigation encounter. So we're going to have a look at this on the platform just to give you a bit of an idea of what will happen here. So here's my site, and I'm just going to run a quick search. On a topic. All right, so I've already recorded a session, right? I'm in a session at the moment. I'm searching across all databases here. It's an automated search. And once I press that search button or hit my enter key, I'm logging a search metric against the databases in that profile. So that's sort of the first thing. Okay, so that's some metrics that have been logged. The next thing we have obviously down here is our search results. So again, if I'm interested in this record, I'll click the title link. This will record an abstract view, and I could then go ahead and download the full text. And that would be a request. Coming back to the result page, if I was to log a AI insight, if I click on this, once I click on that, it will be an investigation encounter and it will be a unique metric called an AI insight request in the standard usage reports. Okay, so just wanted to clarify some of those points. If anyone has any questions as well, feel free also to reach out. Now, a user might also, if they are searching all databases, they might decide to actually limit this down. Maybe I just want to find results from PsycInfo, for example, on this topic. Once I do that, I'll have a separate session logged against the APA database in this case. So these are other things that you might notice in those reports as well. Okay, so moving on from there, the next thing I wanted to touch on was an actual example of a report. So this is a database usage report. It's an EBSCO standard usage report, and I've just basically done a detailed view. And the reason I did the detailed view was so you can see some additional metrics like PDF versus HTML. And over here we have that AI Insights feature request. So this standard usage report does flesh out those AI insights. And this is really just a quick cheat sheet of some of those columns that you'll see in the reports and what they are. So database sessions are listed here. Like I said, you may see a decrease in these because of the way that we're managing the sessions in the new UI. The total searches, you'll see I have some very common numbers here, and that's because by default, I'm using an automated search. So I'm searching all databases at the same time. Where those searches differ is where I might go and select a specific database. And then I've got my requests, and this is our total requests. So this will include our full text requests, any link outs, the total features, which includes our AI insights at this point, and our abstract requests as well. Okay, and in this report, we can see my total full text. There is a breakdown in the detailed view to show me PDF versus HTML, and I can see I've got regular searches here. So that's just a little cheat sheet of some of those metrics that you'll find. Link outs, for those that are not aware, I've got nothing in this report, but if you're using the discovery environment, you will likely see link out requests. If you use a link resolver or an interlibrary loan form, you might find link out requests are logged here as well. And so they will roll up to your total requests. Abstract requests also then roll up to those total requests as well. Okay, moving on from there. Oh, I've had a question. The old permalinks probably won't if you've migrated because they'll just go straight through to the new UI. So if your profile has been migrated already, any classic URLs will just auto redirect into the new UI. So whatever we look at here should be, if it's on the new UI, this is what will happen. Any existing data won't be affected. Really, what will happen is over time, you might compare usage. So, say you went live in August when we rolled everybody over, and you go back and you look, in the last 2 years or something when you were on Classic, you might notice some differences between some of those things, like the sessions, possibly even the HTML requests and the full text and that type of thing. Yeah, but if you're on new UI, this is how it's now being logged. I hope that helps. All right, so again, I'll send these slides to you as well, so you have got the little cheat sheet there. The next example I've got is a similar report. It's the database search and item usage from Counter. So again, some things that you might see here is that eBooks might be treated a little bit differently. I'm going to talk about these later. So that's one of the things that will be affected, and that's really a counter decision. It's not necessarily a new UI. It affects all ebook vendors, but just something to note is that your item investigations will tend to be higher with the way that chapters are now counted within Counter. So the metrics are a little bit different in Counter, but some things are the same. So a request is your full text, so HTML, PDF. Your investigations are the abstract views or your link outs, AI insights, for example, and your search is automated or that kind of automated search with all the databases selected by default. And your regular searches are where that user selects a specific database to search. So I'll talk a little bit more later on about how the ebooks might look and some of the things around there to be aware of. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about too, and this has been a fairly new release. I said when they first brought out the new UI, they didn't include the HTML in the detailed or abstract record. In the classic version, though, they did. So it was always there, but in the new UI, they didn't. So you might find there's a period of time if you were using new UI and this was not the case, that you might have a decrease in retrievals. Okay, it could be related to this. So I'm going to show you what this looks like so you're aware of it. Essentially, if the user searches and if online full text is available as an access option, or the full text is provided by the publisher, if the user clicks on the title link to access the detailed record, right at the bottom of the screen, the full text is embedded. And so when they click that link, they are logging an abstract or investigation as well as your retrieval. So just bear that in mind as well. So again, if you're looking at reports, you might find an increase in your retrievals and because of that. So I'll show you what this looks like. If you haven't seen this, it is a fairly new update. So in this case, my first record is available in online full text. So as a user, I could go and just click on either one of these options, and that would just log, one count for a request or a retrieval. But if I go and click on the title link, because this record is available in full text, online full text, HTML, the full text is actually embedded within this detailed record. You do have to scroll right down past all the metadata, and here it is. So it's logging that request and that abstract here. Now the user can also go into the viewer from here as well. So I just wanted to mention that is a slight change, and you might see some increases based on that. And if there's any questions, let me know. Okay. The other thing I mentioned was the search count impacts, and this is around any profiles that include a database that has a video collection. And if you're familiar with the video collections, they appear at the bottom of the results, and videos will appear obviously if the keywords match videos in those collections that you have access to. So it is a bento style search, meaning it's segmented, and a user conducting a search means that there's these different search events that are happening, like video counting, that is done here. So you might notice an increase in your search metrics because of that. Now, I'm in PsycInfo at the moment. That's probably not a great example. So I'll go into a database that actually has videos. Let's see, I think I've got education source. If I typed in something like Google Docs, for example, and again, I am searching all databases here. If you scroll right to the bottom of the page, there will be a little carousel. Now, this can be disabled. You may not see it on your site. It can be disabled in the classic admin, but usually it is on, I believe, by default. So here is the panel. So I've run a search on Google Docs, but my searches are also including these multimedia assets or videos. And so this will be contributing to my search activity. Okay, so just wanted to mention that. If there's any questions, let me know. Users can also click on the little view all or onto any video from the list to open the multimedia page as well. So it is sort of almost like a separate platform, and you will see multimedia included in your reports as well. So, but that initial search is going to include that segment. So you'll see it's kind of a little segment box, kind of like that bento style search. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about as well is bulk export up to 25,000. Now, this is a configurable or optional setting. So your library might have this, your library may not. If you do, you'll find a link on the results page that will say export results up to 25,000. Now, it is a bit of a process. A user has to log into their EBSCO account in order to download their bulk records. So in terms of how this will impact on usage, each record downloaded is counted as a retrieval, and it may see an increase in retrievals in your usage reports. From a reporting perspective, our reports do not differentiate between retrievals from bulk export and other retrieval types. And in the classic interface versus the new interface, the bulk export downloads were never tracked as transactions, but they are in the new UI. And then lastly, usage tracking. All bulk export activity is tracked and is counted as an individual transaction. So this may also be visible in those reports over time. So for anyone that's not familiar with this bulk export option, I will just show you where that setting is usually applied. If it's on, it will be here. So it is a setting that does need to be set up. If it's something that you want set up as well, you can reach out to EBSCO support and they can enable that for you. Within the interface, it's a maximum of 50 bulk export right to EndNote, etc. But with this on, users have to be signed into my EBSCO. I already am. They would select their output format, enter in the email address they want that link to be sent to, and you can also include some additional recipients, and you would just go ahead and send that. So that is done, and I've just got 7 days to go and action the link in my email and import those records to EndNote, Zotero, whatever. So those records are going to be counted as transactions. Okay, moving on from there. The last thing we're going to cover is the counter release 5.1 and the change to ebook counting. So again, this is a requirement with Counter 5.1. It will affect all vendors, not just EBSCO, but it's useful to know what the changes are going to look like. So historically with Counter, you always had your unique title and unique investigations and requests at the title level. And you used to have your sort of total item investigations and unique item investigations and requests. But with Counter R5, if a user went into an ebook record and they downloaded chapters, it would only ever be counted as one investigation or one request, right? We couldn't really differentiate if they downloaded chapters in one go, but we now can. So in this case, in 5.1, the users downloaded a book with 10 chapters. So the 10 chapters are logged here under your investigations and your requests, but your title investigations are always one because it's the title of that book. So this is more about chapters and accurate reporting on those chapters. It really only affects vendors where ebooks can be downloaded chapter by chapter, such as in EBSCO and some other vendors as well. So the one thing to really remember is you might see an increase in your item investigations and requests. So moving on from there, and this is just an example here of a counter report, which is the book usage by access type. And you can see I've got a few titles here from my collection in my usage, and we're seeing over here our metric types. So unique title and total title are sort of your specific ebook metrics. They've always been the case. You'll tend to see that they are one, but you'll notice here I've got 18 for unique item and 18 for your requests and investigations. So that's indicating that a user has sort of downloaded chapters rather than just having that one count. Yeah, so that's something to be aware of in those reports moving forward. So Counter 5.1 was released around February. It was released really in January, but you started to see this 5.1 in the usage reports around that February timeframe. So just letting you know that's a change now that you will see. And that takes me to the end of the session. So I'm just going to pause here and see if anyone has any questions about any of the items that I've covered today. Feel free to use the chat panel. Okay, so I have got a question. If a user downloads one chapter from a 10 chapter book, is that counted as one chapter or 10 chapters? It'll be counted as one, but it'll be kind of aggregated over time. So it's more about counting the fact that they can, just select a chapter rather than having it counted as one book investigation request or one entire title investigation and request. And I guess to kind of illustrate your point too, if we go back to my slide, you can see for this title, right? There's 18, but there's also sort of 93. So that chapter is going to be, I'm assuming there's a lot of chapters in this book. Someone's got 18, someone's got 93, right? Right. If there's any further questions, feel free to reach out. I will hang on for just another minute. Okay, I don't think there's any further questions. So I will just end the session here. I will send a copy of these slides out to you as well. This page just outlines some useful support documentation, particularly around your standard usage report columns, the glossary of terms for things that you're going to see in those reports, the updates to Counter Release 5.1, and the FAQs for Counter. And of course, this guide here that I mentioned at the start of the session, that this session is sort of based around. Okay, and lastly, just a reminder, we do have a YouTube channel where we have lots of different videos on our new features recorded and available here. All right, well, thank you everyone. Have a great rest of the day, and I will send you a copy of the slides and recording link a little bit later on. Thank you.